It's been 100 days since the PUP won the landslide election and formed the government of Belize. And since then, they, like any new mid-pandemic regime, have had their highs and their lows. Their first move was to get cattle rolling. And roll they did, with 600 heads crossing the border in mid-November alone. And in other border issues, Norteños had their cayucos back within 2 weeks of the blue wave win. And the GSU, in name at least, was one of the first to go. It became the GI3. The new government also took a bold step in the establishment of a national holiday to celebrate the life and legacy of the Right Honourable George Cadle Price. A day whose spirit was marred by mass firings of dozens of Transport Department employees. And 2 days later, one minister told us that these are decisions that every new government in their time are forced to make.
I, who is a human being, and I have a soft heart, it was not my intention, but if I did, I damn. If I don't, I damn. Because my people are expecting me to provide for them.
And back in November, the PM had to decide just how to reward those who had been his campaign generals in a series of appointments that at the time, we said, raised the politically undead. Still, there was at least one bright young CEO, another who didn't make it through the first quarter, and one minister of state who was straight up rejected by his minister. One thing that's remained constant in the PUP's first 100 days has been the controversial appointments of family members of ministers, at least 24. It's a state of affairs that the PM famously justified as follows.
I think that the question that I would rather you ask about the quality of the people that I am appointing. And I believe that I have appointed, with consultations with the different ministers and ministries and everybody else, people that are qualified. Now, if I have just appointed people just because they are a family member of a minister or my friend or whatever, and they're not qualified, then I think you have every right to be able to make a case. But when you're looking at just say 20 out of hundreds of people that we have to apply, Belize is a small society. We have limited talent.
One thing's for sure, those talented individuals in government will have to get the country's finances in order, and quick, if they hope to change the current state of COVID affairs. And back in September, as PM Briceño made his first address to the United Nations, he pleaded Belize's case and that of other small island developing nations who've struggled to make ends meet during COVID.
We did what we could. We repurposed where possible and borrowed when we could ill afford it. But now, the situation grows more urgent. The existing resources in SIDS are about to dry up, and the debtors are waiting by the door.
The Ashcroft Alliance didn't have to wait anymore. Their long-pending review for the acquisition of Scotiabank Belize was approved within days of the government taking office. And from the media's vantage point, there has been concern that while the start of the pandemic was marked by regular prime ministerial press conferences, the PUP's first 100 days hasn't yielded a single one. We'll excuse the 2 weeks in which the PM himself was infected with COVID-19, during which time he found himself chairing cabinet meetings via Zoom. And he wasn't the only one of his government who contracted COVID. They even lost one area rep before he could even be sworn in. But while the new government mourned, they've had to deal with the business at hand, much of which has had to be focused on the survival of a struggling nation, and the hard decisions prompted by a post-election COVID spike that had to be made.
Starting on Saturday, the 28th of November, a curfew will be implemented from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., and this will last for a period of 21 days.
That spike, it comes with a curve. What are the experts saying about that curve? Is it now trending down?
No, it is not trending down as yet. We expect the spike to be somewhere in January, around the middle of January. So we do anticipate that we're going to have continuing numbers of positive cases coming out.
All the funds were spent before November 11th. They left $1 million left for food, for the food pantry or the grocery bags or whatever it is you want to. They left $1 million. The $10.5 million that have just come in towards that, the government had already spent it. They borrowed it from central bank. So that has to be paid. So now we just decided in cabinet that we are going to make the monies available to continue that program at least until the end of this financial year.
And while social programs remain under incredible strain, the government seems to be coming through with the COVID vaccines. Back in December, we were told that the IDB would facilitate the vaccination of at least 30% of Belize's population. The Briceño administration has also begun to prod into the misdeeds of their predecessors, exposing major fraud, confiscating government assets, and doing their due diligence to find out the whereabouts, profits, or lack thereof, of everything that the UDP sold off.
He either wrote to or called Joe Wade about the purchase of furniture that, for the most part, he tells me, was furniture specially treated. I will need to be delicate. Furniture consisting of a couch and some chairs that had to be acquired with certain dimensions and size specifications in mind, and in addition had to be reinforced because of Senator Perfeet's size and weight. His finance officer said to him, "Why don't you apply to buy these things? Half of them nobody else can use. They were specially adjusted for you." And so in that context, he spoke to the financial secretary. But a letter did come from the vehicle care unit saying that these pieces of furniture he was advising needed to be disposed of. Now, I know that included in what was sold to Senator Perfeet was a laptop.
And an iPad, I believe.
And an iPad.
It's been 100 days of growing pains and settling in. And there have been some embarrassments and some controversy.
The country is suffering. People are suffering, and people are expecting the government to come to their aid.
But there have also been some bright spots, with the Briceño administration's biggest accomplishment to date being the obvious lowering of the curve, which to date has drastically reduced both our death and positivity rates. And that offers a bit of hope. Hope that even in a world where Parliament has to look like this, that this now not so new government can find its way through the most challenging period in Belize's history. Charisse Halsell, 7 News.